We just finished talking about low effort social cognition. And what we have to remember, once again, as always, is that low effort requires very little conscious awareness, very little thinking. And the deal is that it's because we're lazy. However, I want to note that because of the low effort processes that are taking place, and because of the laziness component of this whole thing, all the low effort social cognitive things we talked about, the heuristics, the self fulfilling prophecy, the priming, I want you to know that it's prone to error. That should have become apparent in the last examples I gave, but often there are errors associated with this, such that we're just wrong. We make bad judgments about people, or we make bad decisions because we don't put in the time or the effort. Contrast that, we have the high effort processing. And what we have to remember is that these things all require time, energy, motivation, the resources available to do it, the ability to think about things more clearly. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to put a lot of effort into our decision making and a lot of effort into our thinking about the social world. And laziness is not what's happening here. If the reason why it's not laziness is because we're putting in the time and the effort. So the reason that we do this is because we want to feel accurate. We want to feel right. We want to feel good. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about just two pieces of this. We're going to talk about counterfactual thinking and the hindsight bias. And what we're going to see, once again, is that these are amendable to social change. So the environment influences this and also predicts behavior. So let's start with counterfactual thinking, or the hindsight bias. So what's going to happen here is that this is all about the need to feel right, all right, as a basic human motivation. And the hindsight bias is that after learning about an event's outcome, you say to yourself and you say to people, and you actually believe, oh, I knew it all along. I knew it. So let's take the last presidential race. I think the polls before the last day of the polls leading up to the election had something like Hillary Clinton likelihood of winning at like 72-ish%, I think it was at one point. But clearly what happened was Trump won. And so a lot of people afterwards were just like, oh, I just knew he was going to win. I just knew that this email scandal would sink Clinton. I just knew it. It's like, did you really know it? Did you really? Because if you did, then you would be the odd man out, if you will, because 72% of people didn't think that would happen. All right? So I knew it was happening. Think about what's happening now. In our current political climate, there's a lot of discussion about Trump colluding with the Russians to, fix the election. And a lot of people, Republicans and Democrats, were sitting there like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. It's like, did you really know it? It's like, and what happens here is that after you learn about an event happening, you spend the cognitive effort to try to convince yourself and make people believe that you were right all along. You knew it. You knew it. And so what's happening here is you cognitively are putting in the effort to overestimate how much you think this thing would have occurred, but it's only after you knew the outcome. No one says like, Clinton won. Oh, I knew it. It's like that doesn't make any sense, right? And so what you do is after an event is over, you're just like, oh, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. It's like, did you really know it? And remember, this is us putting in maximum cognitive effort to make this work. Sports fans are the worst at this. Whenever a sports team wins, take the last Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was between the Falcons and the Patriots. The Falcons going into the third, I didn't watch it, but the Falcons going into the third quarter had something like a massive lead. And everyone was like, and then the Patriots ended up winning. It was like, oh, I knew the Patriots would win. I knew it. It's like, no, you didn't. I think there was some sports index that had the Falcons winning 99.6% chance at one point. It's like, did you really know that was going to happen? Oh, I just knew it. I'm a firm believer. I knew Tom Brady was going to pull it out. It's like, no, you didn't. And that's the thing. That is the thing that happens. The sports fans are the worst at this. All right, the final thing we're going to talk about in this chapter is counterfactual thinking. And what's going to happen is this is a lot of people call this if-then thinking. And the way it works is what you say is, if I would have done this, then my future would be different, or this event would have happened. So if I would have, so let's say, I don't play the lottery, but let's say I did, and my favorite numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say those are my favorite numbers, and let's say I look at the news and I find that the winning lotto ticket, so the winner of like millions and millions of dollars, won with the ticket 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll sit there and I'll think, oh my gosh, if only I had played the lottery that day, I would have won millions of dollars. All right. So what counterfactual thinking is, you take a past event and you think about how it could have come differently. So I'm sure you guys have all done this before. So let's take a test. Let's say you take a test and you don't do as well as you would have thought. Like, oh, if only I had studied the book material more, I would have gotten an A. I have students coming and telling me that all the time. And it's just like, well, but you didn't. But now you know. Right? So counterfactual thinking isn't necessarily a bad thing per se. But it's one of those if-then thinkings. And the deal here is that it just takes a lot of time and effort to make this happen. All right? And we do this a lot. And the purpose of us doing this at a broader level is not so much that we want to be accurate, although because this is a hypothetical, but it's to make us feel good. Let's say you fail a test. How do you feel? You feel like crap. To make yourself feel better, you'll say things like, oh, if only I had spent 5 more minutes studying, I would have gotten that A. Or let's say that you and your significant other have a fight and you guys break up. You'd be like, oh, if only I'd handled that differently, we'd be together. And what's happening here is the motivation is we want to feel good. This isn't about laziness because we're putting in maximum effort and time and energy. It's not about wanting to be accurate. It's not about laziness. It's also not about accuracy because this is a hypothetical. All right? But it is all about wanting to feel good. And it's about putting in the effort to make us feel good. Now, what's interesting is that this can describe Olympic medalists. So think about this. So, you got an Olympic medalist. What you have gold, silver, bronze. How is the gold medal person going to feel? Well, they're going to feel super happy, right? Because they just won the gold medal. They're the best athlete in their sport in the world. Fine, great. You won the gold medal. The bronze medalist is going to be super happy because they made the medal. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here. I just got a medal at the Olympics. I'm so happy. The silver medalist is actually the one who's going to be upset. And they're going to be upset because they're going to sit there and say and think to themselves, if only I had done this better, I would have gotten the gold. Right? And that's what's an interesting idea with how counterfactual thinking works, is that you would think it makes us feel, you would think it would, this would make us feel bad, but it actually makes us feel okay. It makes us feel good to do this. Because, if you got to imagine, and we mostly do this when bad things happen, right? We don't win $1 million in the lottery and be like, if only I had played this other number, I would have lost, I would have only won $100. That doesn't make us feel good. That's silly. We do it when there's something negative that happens and you're like, if only I had done this differently, my life would be better. That's typically how we do this. Not all the time, but that's typically how we do it. And so it's all about wanting to make us feel good, which is kind of an interesting use of our mental energies to do this. All right. So that is the end of topic 3. That will take us to the first exam. So with that said, I'll post this when I can, and we'll go from there.